The Case of Michael Bernard Bell, a deep dive into a Florida execution. Overview of a scheduled execution. Michael Bernard Bell, a 54-year-old resident of Florida, is scheduled for execution. His impending death sentence marks a significant moment in the state's capital punishment history. Bell's case has drawn considerable attention due to the nature of his crimes and the extensive legal appeals process. The execution is set to proceed by lethal injection. This method is the standard form of capital punishment in Florida. The procedure will take place at Florida State Prison, located near Starkey. The scheduled date for Bell's execution is Tuesday. This date has been confirmed following the exhaustion of many legal avenues. The state has prepared for the execution in accordance with established protocols. Bell was convicted in 1995 for the murders of Jimmy West and Tameka Smith. These heinous crimes occurred in 1993, leading to a swift and decisive legal process. The jury subsequently sentenced him to death, a verdict that has been upheld through decades of appeals. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. The execution. Michael Bernard Bell. Florida has executed death row inmate Michael Bernard Bell, marking a 10-year high for executions in the U.S. Bell was executed on Tuesday, July 15th, for the revenge killings of 23-year-old Jimmy West and 18-year-old Tameka Smith outside a Jacksonville bar on December 9, 1993, when Bell went on a rampage with an AK-47. Bell, who was pronounced dead at 6:25 p.m. ET, became the 26th inmate executed in the U.S. this year, eclipsing the 25 executions conducted in the nation during all of last year. The U.S. also has now had more executions in any given year in the U.S. since 2015, when there were 28. What were Michael Bell's last words, last meal? Bell kept his last words simple. Who witnessed it? "Thank you for not letting me spend the rest of my life in prison," he said. Bell's last meal was an omelet, bacon, home fries, and orange juice. What was Michael Bell convicted of? In June 1993, a man named Theodore Wright killed Michael Bell's brother in self-defense. Afterward, Bell broadcast his plans for revenge, even saying, "Wright belongs in the morgue," according to court records. Almost 6 months later, Bell spotted what he thought was Wright's distinctive yellow Plymouth Fury outside a Jacksonville bar, but Wright had sold his car to his half-brother, 23-year-old Jimmy West. West left the bar with 18-year-old Tameka Smith and another woman. As they were getting into the car, Bell used an AK-47 to spray the group with bullets and then fired on people nearby, according to court records. Though Bell didn't realize West had bought the car, he recognized him as Wright's brother before he opened fire and proceeded anyway, court records say. Bell later told his aunt, "Theodore got my brother, and now I got his brother," court records say. At trial, Judge R. Hudson Olive lamented how Bell received early release from prison 3 separate times before West's and Smith's murders, including once for an armed robbery, following years of repeated arrests and convictions. 7 months after that early release, the defendant committed this savage double murder of an innocent 23-year-old man and a teenage girl, Olive said during Bell's sentencing. These 2 murders can be laid at the doorstep of the Florida Parole Commission for the irresponsible early prison release of this violent, habitual criminal who should have been in prison at the time the murders were committed. Olive said the murders were cold and calculated and with heightened premeditation. Bell's attorneys fought to win him a reprieve, but were unsuccessful. Most recently, the Florida Supreme Court rejected arguments that witnesses who helped convict Bell wanted to recant their testimony, with the justices citing the overwhelming evidence in the case. Details of the 1993 murders. The murders of Jimmy West and Tameka Smith in 1993 stemmed from a deeply rooted motive of revenge. Michael Bernard Bell sought retribution for the killing of his brother, which had occurred earlier that same year. This personal vendetta fueled his violent actions. Bell mistakenly believed that Jimmy West was connected to his brother's killer. He thought West owned the car of the individual responsible for his brother's death. This critical error in judgment set the stage for the tragic events that unfolded. On the night of the attack, Bell was accompanied by two friends. They were armed with an AK-47 rifle, indicating a premeditated and highly dangerous assault. The group positioned themselves outside a liquor lounge, lying in wait for their targets. Jimmy West and Tameka Smith were leaving the club when they were ambushed. Bell opened fire with the AK-47, unleashing a barrage of bullets. The sudden and brutal attack left the victims with no chance to defend themselves. Jimmy West died at the scene, succumbing to his injuries almost immediately. Tameka Smith, though critically wounded, was still alive when emergency services arrived. She tragically died en route to the hospital, unable to recover from the extensive damage. A third woman present during the attack managed to escape unharmed. Her survival was a fortunate outcome amidst the chaos and violence. Bell also fired at bystanders and onlookers, demonstrating a reckless disregard for human life beyond his primary targets. Following the horrific attack, Bell immediately fled the area. He attempted to evade capture, but law enforcement authorities pursued the case diligently. Bell was eventually apprehended the following year, bringing an end to his brief period of freedom. Michael Bernard Bell's broader criminal history. Michael Bernard Bell's criminal record extends far beyond the 1993 double murder. He has been linked to and convicted of additional killings. This pattern of violence paints a disturbing picture of his past. In total, Bell has been convicted of 3 other murders. These separate incidents underscore a history of extreme aggression and disregard for human life. His criminal career spans multiple decades and involves multiple victims. Among his past victims were a woman and her toddler son, murdered in 1989. This particularly heinous crime highlights the indiscriminate nature of his violence. The loss of a child in such circumstances is profoundly tragic. Another victim was his mother's boyfriend. This murder occurred approximately 4 months before the attack on West and Smith. The proximity of these violent acts suggests a period of heightened criminal activity for Bell. These additional convictions demonstrate a consistent pattern of lethal violence. Bell's history reveals a deeply troubled individual with a propensity for extreme aggression. His record is a significant factor in the legal proceedings against him. Legal appeals and current status. Bell's attorneys have pursued extensive legal appeals to halt his execution. These appeals have been filed in both the Florida Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court. The legal team has worked tirelessly to challenge the conviction and sentence. The primary argument for halting the execution centered on newly discovered evidence. This evidence allegedly pertained to witness testimony from the original trial. The defense claimed it could undermine the credibility of key witnesses. The Florida Supreme Court reviewed these arguments thoroughly. In a unanimous decision, the court rejected the defense's claims. Their ruling upheld the original conviction and sentence. The Florida Supreme Court issued a comprehensive 54-page opinion detailing their rationale. They cited overwhelming evidence of Bell's guilt, concluding that the new evidence did not warrant a stay of execution. The court found no basis to overturn the previous judgments. A petition was subsequently filed with the U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday. This was the final legal avenue available to Bell's defense team. The petition sought a last-minute intervention to prevent the execution.